You know, we really do have an even bigger challenge than some of us think. I took an informal poll of people before I came here, people I met on the street, people I would talk to in lecture audiences, about what the word civics meant. A large number didn't understand it, or they only had a vague concept that it had something to do with government, or they had taken a class in civics a long time ago. I think we have to go back to the real basics. Civics is about citizenship. Let's call it that. Citizenship. The tools for citizenship. The tools for citizenship are very important because they help us run our democracy and our republic. And one of the problems we have is people don't realize often that we're both a democracy and a republic. So Martin Luther King, and Congressman Edgar was very good in opening his remarks with a quote from Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King understood that understanding our history, understanding our past, is fundamental to reforming and improving our democracy. He mentioned in the magazine Liberator exactly 50 years ago today that African Americans were only going to achieve their basic rights if they understood the past in regards to passive resistance, civil disobedience, all of the tools that previous people, from Gandhi to the American revolutionaries before the fighting began, employed in securing their rights. He mentioned, in our history, we have to understand the creative forces that have been developed, the mass boycotts, sit-down protests, strikes, sit-ins, refusal to pay fines, bail for unjust arrests, mass marches, mass meetings, prayer pilgrimages. So the tools for citizenship can have direct practical result in improving our democracy. Now, we do have a discussion today, and this is progress, about civility. And I'm in favor of it. This is a positive step. I'm glad that members of Congress are now inviting each other to sit together, Democrats and Republicans. But that's symbolism. We have to go beyond that. It's also more symbolism than substance to talk grandly about we should have no labels or we should just have civility. Those are form. They're not the substance. I believe that if we're going to get civility, the most practical way, the surest way of doing it, is improving how our young people and the rest of us use critical reasoning and critical thinking, like Richard Dreyfuss said, to be able to discuss these issues, to be able to have an intelligent discussion. An intelligent discussion is even more important than a civil discussion. Now, I also believe that if we give people these tools, they'll get excited about it. I think one of the reasons we have a deracity in democracy is people are both cynical and they feel helpless. They don't understand how these tools can be used to effectuate their lives, to improve their lives. If we can meet that challenge, if we can break through the barrier, the knowledge barrier and also the cynicism barrier, I think we can very quickly reinvigorate democracy. We have done this in the past. We did this during the Jacksonian period. We did this during the Progressive era. We did this during the Civil Rights era. We can, using citizenship, and let's use that word more than we use civics, we can improve, excite, and enthuse our democratic impulses.
And I need to begin with the role of what I've studied, because I've looked at the issue of education and of participation, the combination of civics and, as John Funn says, civility. And I got to tell you something. As much as we're at a university campus, most people don't think it's part of it that the fundamental role of civics and civility is here. As much as we talk about the problems in society and the problems with Washington and politicians, most people don't blame them first. It starts at home. It starts with parents. It starts with what you do at the dinner table. And it drives me nuts. This guy over there, oh, he's going to take a picture. Cheese. I watch people go out to dinner, and the kids are on their BlackBerries. And the parents are on their BlackBerries. And I will get up and walk over and risk my life to say, what's going on here? Because I'm a pollster, so I ask a lot of really stupid, dumb questions. And you're out to dinner. In my household, if I had turned on the TV, I don't want to cast aspersions on my mom, but I've got bruises from the back of my head when my mother would go, don't do that. And then my father, oh, hey, how you doing? I always wanted to actually hit Richard Dreyfuss, so now I've Yes. By the way, I got to tell you, don't go in the water. Sharks bite. You haven't figured. Parents, how a parent allows a child to not engage in that conversation. That's number one. And number two, we talk about money. Bob Edgar began this conversation, taking money away from education. If it's not happening at home, no matter how much you spend, it's not going to happen in the classroom because the child is not going to be fed the right way. The child is not going to be disciplined the right way. If I ever interrupted as a child, now I'm on Fox, so I'm now trained in how to interrupt appropriately. Do you see the lack of civility right here? You must watch MSNBC. The only news network with more letters in its name than viewers. You don't.
More entertaining than any C-SPAN show I've ever seen.
You don't interrupt. Yeah, but I haven't used my four-letter word yet, so give it time. We're trained to listen. I was trained as a child to listen 3 times as often as I speak, and that's how I figured out and how I love becoming a pollster. And you guys who know me know that I love the stories because I'm learning from the stories. The woman back there applauded because she wanted everyone to know that she liked Diane Ravitch. I'm actually quiet because I want to learn from what Diane Ravitch has to teach me. If you want to genuinely make a difference, it's not about the dollars we spend. It's not even how we spend it. It's what you all do at home, with your kids, with your friends. It starts in the smallest level and builds from there. If we treat our families civilly, we're much more likely to treat society in a civil way. If we listen and we learn, we're much more likely to pick up information. And we have to do it when they are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, because it's too late to do it when they're 18, 19, 20. We've already lost them. So I'm going to turn it back to you guys, but the responsibility is in your hands first.
I'd like to begin by thanking Richard Dreyfuss for the privilege of participating today. We've only known each other a short period of time, but it's been uplifting for me since I've met this actor, wonderful man, and a patriot in every sense of the word in our country. I think it's very fitting that we meet here today at the University of San Diego in this beautiful campus in a wonderful city and reflect upon the Constitution of the United States and what it means on the anniversary of a man who really understood it and worked and gave his life to make sure that those that were oppressed were raised up and could enjoy the benefits of citizenship. It's interesting to me, 2 things since I first began to be concerned about the initiative, if you will. 2 things have struck me. One, it was when the 112th Congress opened with the reading of the Constitution of the United States. Now, I'm a man that in 1953, when I was much younger, joined the United States Navy and swore an allegiance to the Constitution of the United States. Not to a man, not to any group of men, but to the Constitution and all that it meant. And that has stayed with me throughout my adult life. I know and understand what it meant. The other thing that strikes me is, as I go around my community, if I go into a convenience store, I see people that look differently than I do. Yet they're here, perhaps for the very same reasons that my forefathers came here. They run our convenience stores. They left the oppressive regime in the Middle East to come here, and they probably didn't understand freedom of religion. They probably didn't understand freedom of assembly. They didn't understand free speech and things like that, but they understood what the United States stood for. In my present position working on a board that I do, I have the occasion to interface with the Taxi Association in San Diego. And yet the taxi cab drivers look totally different than I am. Okay? They fled the oppression in Somalia and Ethiopia. A terrible genocide that has been going on, to come to this country for their freedom. Well, what are we going to do with their protege? What are we going to do with their kids? Okay? Because just as sure as my father's son rose to somewhat of a position of responsibility in the nation, their children will also. The changing character of our Congress, the changing character of our councils, the changing character of our supervisors in our counties, and all that reflect the fact that these immigrants have come here in different times, whether it was the Vietnamese in 1970 and now the Middle East and Africa and all that, and their children will rise to positions of responsibility in our country. Okay? Will we prepare them to do that? Will they prepare to understand the Constitution and what it means? That's a chore for us. Now, to paraphrase Thomas Paine, in a totally different context, these are the times that try men's souls.
Let me say, we obviously need to do a better job of teaching civics and government in school. We'll talk about that a lot. I want to pick up another subject. We not only need to educate children, we need to educate the adults in America about what government is, what it could be, what it should be. And I want to delve right into that. We have overgeneralized. Let me pick up John Funn's quote. We need to give people tools for an intelligent discussion. Because no matter how much we teach children in schools, we adults, as their parents, we really do teach them about government in our political comments and discussion. And I tell you, I ran 5-6 times in Colorado. Statewide. I won 5, lost 1. But it was a process of really talking to people about their lives and what government can do and what it cannot do. I want to turn to today. We have now a different kind of media than when I was running in Colorado. We have new technology, and we have cable TV. We have a lot of circumstances that educate people for good or for worse about government. And I just want to point to the overgeneralization and simplification as a real problem. And let me label one specific thing. Next week in Congress, we're going to debate a bill to repeal the health care law in the United States. The title of that bill is to repeal the job-killing health bill. Now look, I served in legislators. I was governor for 14 years. I have never seen a tradition in a legislative body that so labeled a bill falsely, and a political body that will allow that. What I'm really saying, if the Congress of the United States will not give us more truth than that awful generalization, how can we educate our children about government? Now, I'm not trying to be partisan here. I'm trying to talk about we have got some real problem in communication. Finally, I want to talk about the way we campaign. You know, when I first ran for the United States Senate in 1965, my campaign expenses were less than $100,000. Didn't win. But you understand now that campaigns have turned into being dictated by money. People who serve in office spend half their time raising money. And money gets then to talk about government in the oversimplification of television ads and cable TV ads. Now, I got to tell you, we need to do a better job of educating civics in schools, but we got to look at our structures of government. Finally, I just want to say, let's talk about civics in terms of the things that really are going to affect our lives, such as globalization, the problem of global warming, the problem of control, appropriate control of banking internationally. These are the things that make a difference whether a person can get a mortgage on his home, whether they can have a bank account without somebody invading their privacy. That's what government should be about. It should be giving tools to people to say, this is the way I want to organize my life. Therefore, summary, we need to educate children in school. We need to educate adults in our country about the importance of government, how it runs, what it can do for you, what it can't do for you, and how you participate in it effectively.